panels, the acrylic windows and the cross braces along the top, you now need to create the stand or the legs for your model. To do this, we've opened our original Part Studio 1. We're going to create a new sketch on the front plane, put it into 2D, zoom out, and just over here on the right hand side I want you to sketch a rectangle. So we're going to sketch out our rectangle. Ideally, it's good if the rectangle does align with the bottom of the panels. We want the rectangle to be 125 millimeters by 120 millimeters by 25 millimeters. So we're going to measure and change to 120, measure and change to 25. Another rectangle underneath and one from the top. Here's our rectangle from underneath and also one from above. If you make the one above slightly narrower than the one on the base, we're then going to dimension these. We want the distance here from this edge to this edge to be 10 millimeters. So select one, select the other, and change to be 10. Repeat the same on the opposite side. For the top one, we want a slightly different dimension. The top one is going to be 16.6 millimeters. And the same on the opposite side. And then finally, we want the height of the rectangle from the bottom line here, this distance, to be 5, and the same with the top. So select those two and change to 5, and the same on the top. Dimensions. It's going to make sense to cut a few of our lines away. To do this, we're going to go to the top of your screen and pick the scissors tool, which is called Trim. We're going to select this and cut away lines that we don't need. And this top line here, giving us our shape in between, and we repeat the same on the bottom. To add the slightly deeper cut on this side, and one in the center. To do this, let's click on the straight line tool. Let's add a line down from our existing point here. Click once, click again, click again. Okay. Then press Escape to finish sketching, and let's repeat that on the opposite side. Press Escape to finish sketching. What we now need to do is dimension these lines. So to do this, we want this distance here from this line to be 10 millimeters, and we want the width from here to here to be 8.5. So we click on this line and change to be 8.5. We need to repeat for the opposite side. When we've just changed this last dimension, what you may have noticed on the screen is that the total width has also changed. It moved ever so slightly. So we need to reconstrain the total width. To do this, click on the outside and the outside again, and you can see it's now changed. We just change it back to be 120. Is a little cut in the center of the bottom part. So to do this again, we use the straight line tool. We're going to click once to go up, across, and down. And then we need to press Escape. Now we need to dimension this accurately. So the height of this line here, should be 7.5. That is because this makes this cut halfway along the total height of this part here. We then need the distance, the width of this, to be 3.5, the thickness of the plywood. And then lastly, we want the edge of this from this side here to be 58.25. This means that the cut will be exactly in the centre. We can now use our trim tool to cut away the lines that we no longer need to see the shape that we want. Accept the sketch and to extrude. Click the green tick to accept the sketch. Change into a 3D view and let's extrude the part 4 millimeters, or actually, sorry, 3.5 millimeters in that direction. If we accept our sketch, this creates our new part here. So I'm going to right click and choose rename and choose to call this the bottom leg, or you could call it the bottom frame. The last thing that we need to do is just add some fillets or rounded edges to the corners to soften our shape up. To do this, we're going to choose the fillet tool, going to click on this edge here and change this measurement to be 15 so we can see our nice curved shape. We're going to add the opposite side to our fillet to give our rounded shape. We're going to accept that, and then finally we're going to add some very small fillets just to the bottom edges on the inside and the outside. So we'll again click on fillet. Let's pick this one and change the fillet to be 2, and then we're going to pick our other edges that we can see. If you can't pick them, this is where we need to spin your work around, select the other edges to soften the shape to give us our bottom leg or our bottom frame. Accept. The bottom leg frame for our wooden panels to sit into. We need a second copy of this. However, we need the cutout, the slot, to be at the top bit. To make this easier, we're going to copy our existing part. So if we go to our model tree on the left and we right mouse click, we can choose to make a copy. If I just zoom out and use the arrow here and drag, I can create a copied part. So I'm going to let go and accept. And if you notice at the bottom here, we've now got a new part called part 6. I'm going to right click and rename that part bottom leg top part. What I now need to do is just edit this part. I try to edit the original cut for this part to move it up here. This part will change because we have copied the part. So what we actually need to do is add a new sketch to this part. We'll look at it from the front datum plane. What we need to do in this instance is actually draw some material here to extrude to fill this section in and draw some material here to remove this section. So to do that, I'm going to choose the corner rectangle. I'm going to select the bottom corner there and draw a rectangle which covers my original. I'm then going to do a second rectangle from there to the top. I'm going to accept my sketch. Spin round in 3D so we can see our work. I'm then going to click the extrusion tool. I'm going to extrude the bottom rectangle in that direction, and we're going to make it the same as before at 3.5. It's going to add material and fill in the gap. What has disappeared is our sketch, but our sketch is still here. So if we unhide it, we can see our sketch comes back. Now I'm going to select extrude again, but this time pick the top rectangle, drag it through, and choose remove. This is going to remove all of the material from the top section. Let's click to accept, and you can now see that we have the two matching parts into our assembly. So we're going to select our assembly. Here it is with all of our parts in so far. And then we're going to insert our bottom leg and our bottom leg top part. Here is our bottom leg. We will just zoom out, just place that one, and I'm going to place the bottom leg top part also and zoom out. Going to accept. We're going to line up the base part here, this flat surface, with the underneath of our wooden panels, and we're going to rotate our parts through 45 degrees. Then, because we don't have a surface that we can actually join perfectly to, we're going to do this visually by eye. To do this, what we need to do first of all then is apply our planar mate. Here's our planar mate. We're going to zoom in. We're going to pick this surface here. I'm going to pick the center of the surface. We're going to zoom out, use our cube to rotate, and what we want to do is zoom in and we'll pick our bottom surface here. Okay, as you can see, what we now have is our part aligned along this bottom surface. So for the moment, we're just going to accept. Then what we're going to do is select the part and rotate the part through 45 degrees. There's 45 degrees. Then we can move our part along using our arrows to visually get the part in line. For the last part of that, what we need to do is look directly from above at our part using the top view. So now we can see our top view and we can see that it's still slightly out of line. So we're just going to move it so it looks like it's in the center and move it along so we can see that our line here, our second line, this line, is approximately in line with the two sides. So we're just going to move it a fraction and a fraction back, okay, just by eye until it looks pretty much exactly in the right place. When we've done that, we can select off it, spin our work round again in 3D, and now what we need to do is we can actually pick the inside of this to mate with our other side. So we're going to add another planar mate and we're going to pick it on the inside. However, before we do that, it makes sense to fix our last part. So our last part is our bottom leg. So we're going to right mouse click and we're going to choose fix. Now we can add our planar mate by zooming in and picking the center of this part. Zoom out, use the cube to spin your work around, zoom in and pick the matching part. Okay, and as you see, the part comes in exactly the same place. So we will accept, then we're going to pick our part by selecting in the model tree here and rotating through 90 degrees. Okay, which fixes our part in place. Click off.